It's possible that Nintendo's Switch Pro console might look very, very different than what we're expecting. Guys, I've talked a couple of times already about the rumors about a Nintendo Switch Pro in the past. Everyone's talking about how this thing is going to support 4K and how it's going to be more powerful and all sorts of things like that. Well, we've got some more news that might be kind of lending some credence to some of these reports. This article here is referencing a Bloomberg article that reports that Nintendo has reached out to multiple third-party developers to ensure their titles are capable of supporting 4K graphics. Basically, it seems like Nintendo is reaching out to developers and saying, hey, make sure your game can support 4K on our platform. Now, I've talked about this in the past, but we'll go over it again in an abbreviated form here. The Nintendo Switch currently runs on an NVIDIA Tegra processor, which is an ARM CPU. In order to keep backwards compatibility with the current roster of Switch games, the next-gen Switch, or Switch Pro, however they're going to call this thing, is going to be using a newer version of NVIDIA's Tegra chipset. Now, while this could offer quite a bit more raw power, what it's not going to do is it's not going to put it in the realm of the PlayStation 5, Xbox One X. And it's certainly not going to enable a Switch Pro to be able to render and output games at 4K in a real way. I'm not talking about upscaling here. I'm talking about actually rendering games in 4K. Heck, even the PlayStation 4 Pro was using checkerboard, and that wasn't real 4K, and that's what I've been saying from the beginning. If this Switch Pro is going to output, not render, output at 4K, it's going to be doing it using NVIDIA's DLSS, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling. And this is not something you should be super worried about, but it is a distinction to be made there. This is not truly rendering 4K gameplay. It's rendering something like 1080p gameplay and then using AI to upscale it. The results are very, very good. So we've got a Switch Pro coming, Nintendo telling developers to get ready for their games to run at 4K. The plot thickens here. Bloomberg's report comes in light of a big boost in Switch production following the global shortages on the console. They are upping their productions for the current Switch models, which means that the Switch Pro is not going to get rid of the older Switches. It's going to be another option. We already have the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite. The Switch Pro will be another version of the Switch. The other two will likely stay in production concurrently. Let's take things to another place, to a whole nother stratosphere of weird. This report over at Nintendo Life shows a patent for a Joy-Con. Now, what's weird about this Joy-Con is that it doesn't appear to attach to anything. It appears to be a standalone Joy-Con. You've got views of all angles, no apparent way to attach this Joy-Con to anything. The plus and minus buttons are also gone. Okay, so we've got Nintendo telling developers to get ready for 4K. You've got current Switch models productions being upped, and you've got a standalone Joy-Con. Here's what I think we're going to get. We currently have a Nintendo Switch which can switch between docked and handheld mode. We have a Nintendo Switch Lite which is only a handheld full time. What if we are about to get a Nintendo Switch Pro, which is a home console only? It's focused on outputting to your TV, outputting with DLSS in 4K, using standalone Joy-Cons for games that do support motion controls like arms and so forth. We thought this sounded crazy back in the day. This was something that was talked about, but everyone said, oh, well, it's a Nintendo Switch that doesn't switch. What's the point of that? Well, guess what? They already made that, and it's the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it has sold very well. So is Nintendo about to create a home console to actually go right up against head-to-head the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One X / Xbox One S? I think maybe they are, and I actually think this might be a really interesting thing for them to pursue. I'd love to know what you guys think of this theory in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this as we go forward and more news breaks. Until the next video, stay nerdy, my friends. If you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Scary If Literal member. You'll get access to a whole bunch of emoticons to use with live streams and a shout out on an upcoming video. Thanks as always for your continued support.